I'll never forget those years of training. That stage when you think everything is epic. The endless shifts. The first time you step into an operating room, the surgeons talking about complications as if they were sharing a recipe. A pinch of bleeding here, a touch of suturing there. I listened, fascinated, until reality slapped me in the face. There are things no one is ever really prepared for. That night, I was on rotation in surgery. It was close to 1 in the morning, that cursed hour when any ambulance siren means something terrible has just happened. I was examining a patient with abdominal pain, explaining that we needed some tests when I heard it in the distance. That metallic, gut-wrenching melody. The siren. The sound that cuts through hospital walls and, if it could, would wake even the deadest of the dead. I excused myself from the patient, closed the chart, and stepped out. The ambulance screeched to a halt outside the ER. The paramedics rushed out with the urgency of people who know that time has turned into an executioner. One of them was pressing down with both hands on a man's abdomen, blood soaking the blanket that covered him. The staff gathered at my side within seconds. "What happened?" asked the on-call surgeon, a dry man who never wasted words. "Robbery," the paramedic answered, gasping for breath. So far, nothing unusual for that rotten city. But what came next? That was different. The assailant shot a father and his daughter. The little girl died at the scene. The father didn't survive the transfer. The surgeon frowned, then asked the question nobody wanted to hear. "And this one?" he said, pointing at the man barely clinging to consciousness on the gurney. The paramedic lowered his voice, almost as if afraid the dead could overhear him. The wife fought back. She stabbed him. "He's the assailant." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. I felt a lump in my throat like I had swallowed stones. Right in front of us was the man who had just destroyed a family. And the worst part, we had everything ready to save his life. That's when I remembered one of medicine's most uncomfortable truths. We are not judges. We are not executioners, even if sometimes we wish we were. Our job isn't to decide who deserves to live or die. Our job is to fight for whatever human wreck gets dumped on a gurney. And believe me, many times it feels like the hospital is just destiny's selective dumpster. We stabilized him, performed a trauma ultrasound. Positive. Severe abdominal injury. No turning back, we had to open him up. "You've been with him since he came in," the attending surgeon told me. "You're coming in with me." I nodded, though inside I was boiling. Adrenaline crackled like electricity through me, mixed with a suppressed rage that burned deep. And the worst part was knowing that, despite everything, I had no choice. We stepped into the operation room. That place always has a chill in the air, but that night it felt like a subterranean morgue. The atmosphere was dense, charged, almost as if the walls themselves knew what was happening. The nurses whispered to each other in muted tones, careful not to disturb the silence. The anesthesiologists, usually armed with the darkest humor in the whole hospital, wouldn't even look at him. And it was obvious, this man wasn't just another patient. No, he was a monster with a pulse. And everyone knew it. The anesthesiologist hadn't arrived yet when the unexpected happened. The guy started to move. Weak, pale, his blood draining what little willpower he had left. And yet, with a strange, almost unnatural strength, he reached for one of the nurse's hands. "I don't want to die," he whispered, his voice like it was crawling out of the grave. His lips trembled, his breathing a broken whistle. We all looked at each other. Dead silence. No one answered. No one had the guts or the hypocrisy to console him. Deep down, I guess we were all thinking the same thing. Too late, bastard. Way too late. And just when it seemed he would faint, it happened. The man slowly turned his head toward me. I was barely tying my sterile gown, adjusting my gloves, when I heard him scream with a spasm of pure terror. "Don't let him near me! The man in black, he's here!" The nurse tried to calm him, speaking softly, the way you would to a child burning with fever. "There's no one here. Sir, relax." But he kept thrashing, eyes bulging, finger pointing right at my side of the OR. "There! Right there! Don't let him come closer." His face twisted into a grotesque mask of absolute panic. His eyes wide, his mouth trembling dry. He was seeing something none of us could see. Or at least, that's what I wanted to believe. And then I felt it. That cold, Not the OR cold. Not the air conditioning chill we were used to shivering under. No, this was different. A cold that seeps into your bones and drains the warmth from inside, as if an invisible hand was squeezing your heart. The anesthesiologist arrived just in time, almost as if he knew we couldn't take much more. He prepared the drugs, put him under fast, and suddenly the silence returned. Or better said, something that resembled silence returned. Because nothing sounded quite the same anymore. Nobody cracked jokes. Nobody made the usual quip. Let's open him up and then order pizza. Not this time. This time, everyone kept their mouths shut, as if speaking might give shape to what had just happened. The surgery was messy. Bleeding, damaged organs, perforated intestine. We worked on autopilot, mechanically precise, but with the unshakable feeling that something or someone was still watching from that empty corner he had pointed at. Against all odds, he survived. Of course, with a colostomy hanging from his abdomen, his new lifelong accessory, like a twisted reminder that life still had a dark sense of humor. When we closed him up and moved him to recovery, everyone let out a collective sigh. It was exhaustion, yes, but also something else, a tainted relief, as if we all knew that what remained in the OR wasn't just blood and viscera, but something more, something none of us dared to name. The following days, the hospital buzzed like a hornet's nest. The press covered the case, the community demanded justice, and we were the poor bastards who had kept the city's most hated man breathing. Every time I checked on him in recovery, I noticed him growing more restless. He begged us not to turn the lights off, said someone was watching him from the corner of the room. The nurses laughed behind his back, blaming it on the meds. I wasn't so sure. One night I came closer to examine him and he whispered in a broken voice, "Doctor, you saw him too, didn't you?" I froze, because I hadn't seen him, but I had felt him. That cold hadn't been my imagination. It didn't take long for him to unravel completely. Not physically, his wound was healing with military discipline, but mentally. Day after day, he crumbled a little more. He stopped sleeping, barely touched food, and every time a lamp was turned off, he screamed like a child locked in a basement. "He's here. He's coming for me," he'd mutter, eyes wide, staring into nothing. The guards outside thought he was exaggerating, just a criminal playing it up. But those of us inside, the ones who breathed that suffocating air, we knew something didn't add up. The atmosphere in that room was heavy, oppressive. Nights stretched longer there, like the clock refused to move. One early morning, the nurses called me in because he wouldn't stop screaming. I opened the door and the sight froze me. Pale, drenched in sweat, eyes locked on the ceiling as if he were watching something none of us could see. "I can't take it anymore," he gasped. "He's here all the time. Smiling, waiting." I forced myself to believe it was just delirium, trauma, guilt. But when I stepped out of the room, that same cold wrapped around me again. Not AC cold, no, that bone-deep cold that drains your heat in an instant, and out of the corner of my eye, I swear I saw a shadow, not a passing flicker. A shadow standing still, waiting, as if it knew that sooner or later I'd have to face it too. On the 5th day, he stopped screaming. Fell silent, staring at the wall. A strange calm, like he had finally accepted something. The guards thought he was getting better. I knew he wasn't. The next day we found him dead. Not from the wound. Not from infection. His heart just stopped. And on his face, there was no peace. Only terror, frozen stiff, like he had seen something no one else ever could. The medical report said, cardiorespiratory arrest. Cold. Clinical. As if those words could bury the truth. I never told anyone. Until now. Because no matter how much they try to call it superstition, I know that man didn't die alone. Someone came for him, and the worst part is that sometimes when I step into an empty OR in the middle of the night, I feel that same cold again. Like the man in black has found a new pastime, and I don't know if one day he'll decide it's finally my turn. The ironic part is, in the end, we did our job. We saved the killer. And then, as if mocking us all, he died anyway, not by justice, not by his victims, not even by his wounds. He died suffocated by his own fear, and we were just witnesses, or accomplices. Depends on how you want to see it. To this day, I still wonder if what I saw that night was just exhaustion, or if something really was waiting in that room. Sometimes I think about that shadow and the chill that cut through me, and I convince myself it wasn't just my imagination. But of course, the mind is good at lying to us. And you, what do you think? A criminal's guilty delusion or something far darker? Let me know in the comments. And if this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because trust me, there are many more stories to come.